Oh yes, welcome to what will be a very, very special boxing hour here on Box Nation. And what a weekend we had. And if you were with us, well done. It was a marathon of top quality boxing. And it started Saturday night, 7:30.
Hello there, welcome to you all, the start of a very big night's boxing here on Box Nation. Well, next up we have more heavyweight action for you coming up over there for the vacant European heavyweight title. We are ticking towards the big event of the night over there in Las Vegas, starting any time between 4 and 5 o'clock. Plenty more to come. We're with you right the way through until dawn. Let us go ringside, shall we, to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, where all that action is about to start, and join our man at the heart of the action. It's Steve Lillis.
Back to the studio.
Well done, Steve. You've been with us on Box Nation since 7:30 yesterday evening. Very well done indeed, because the time has arrived for the big one. We doff our hats to Miguel Cotto and to Floyd Mayweather. Thank you very much indeed for your company, and good morning to you all.
Oh yes, that was some night, and there were some sensational fights. We saw just about everything, but you know what? That's all been forgotten, because now it's all about this.
Where is he now? Where is he now? You said you want to fight me. I agreed the money.
Take him away, I say.
I agreed with everything. Why are you not fighting me now?
Excuse me.
You have to box up first against the person over there who showed hard. You showed the toe.
Hey, David. How's your toe? How's your toe? How's your toe? How's your toe? How's your toe?
3 times in a row.
David, you want to tell me that in my face? You want to tell me my face?
You lost the
You
Tyson.
want to tell me my face?
Tyson threw you
Tell me my face.
David, round David.
Let go. Let proper. Excuse me. Stand behind me. You tell me my face. Huh? You want to fight me? He glossed me. Please. He glossed me. You're right, but this part. Huh? You good with that gloss, ain't it, David?
Dereck, slow down.
He glossed me.
Well, that was February in Munich, and, well, you know, you've watched those scenes with me dozens and dozens of times. Well, it now seems that the two boxers, David Haye and Dereck Delboy Chisora, will meet in a ring. Upton Park, July 14th. It was made official today. Now, there's 1 or 2 bits attached to it, and it's not just a straightforward story. And I'm delighted to say that I'm joined on our brand new leather sofa by Dereck Delboy Chisora's manager, Frank Warren. Thanks for joining us, Frank.
Good evening.
Frank, now, it's not straightforward, is it? And for a start, they're actually going to be fighting with Luxembourg licences. How did that come about?
After those terrible things, the Boxing Board of Control, as you know, called Dereck. They had a disciplinary hearing, and they decided that they were going to withdraw his licence. In withdrawing his licence, they said he could apply for it back at any time. Doesn't mean he was going to get it, but he could apply it back. And they also said that as they withdrawn it, that he could apply, if he wanted to, he could apply anywhere in the world to box anywhere in the world on another licence. Which, at the end of the day, is what's happened. He's applied for a Luxembourg licence.
But you did appeal at first, didn't you? And the appeal, there was a date given.
The appeal was given for the 14th of May, and last week they decided they're not going to hear the appeal till sometime in July. And after we had the press conference today, about 4 o'clock this afternoon, we were informed that an appeal date has been set for the 2nd of July.
So after the appeal was, the appeal date was given, the original date of May 14th, and before the appeal date was cancelled, did you have any dialogue with the Board of Control? Did you let them know that there was this Luxembourg factor potentially out there?
Well, you know, I had some calls with the chairman and also General Secretary, and said that we were looking to run a show, and we'd like to speed up the appeal process so that we can decide what we're going to do. And unfortunately it got postponed, and what I looked at was, prior to knowing this afternoon of the 2nd of July, they said it's sometime in July. That would have been that Dereck had been out of the ring for nearly 6 months from the fight. In that time, those things were disgraceful. All the stuff that happened there was disgraceful, but in between all that was that he would have been out of the ring, as I say, for 6 months. Had he been banned, what would they have banned him for? 6 months? He'd have been okay to box in July. That equates in a football, as far as the football is concerned, is like 24 matches. Suarez, for all those racist comments, got banned for, I think it was 8 matches.
Yeah.
John Terry's got an allegation of racism against him. Still playing football. Floyd Mayweather, as we know, the weekends, going to prison, but they allowed him to fight. And, you know, that's where we are. So the board said that he can apply for, you know, it wouldn't be a problem for him applying for other licences, which we all knew about. And so we applied for Luxembourg licence. Luxembourg Boxing Commission is affiliated to the EBU, WBA, BO, BC and IBF. It's exactly the same as the Boxing Board of Control. The Boxing Board of Control recognised them. So that's the position. So
did the board make a mistake when they did they make a mistake when they didn't ban Dereck by leaving the door open for him, by telling you that he could apply to, you know, to fight with a licence from another jurisdiction? Was that a mistake on their part?
I don't think it's a mistake. You know, the fact of the matter is that was their judgment, and rightly or wrongly, that's where they are. You know, I said before, the board charged him. There was problems, as far as I was concerned, with no representation from the board in Germany and security issues and whatever. But they charged him. They had the hearing. At the end of the day, for me, it should have been an independent body that heard the charges of being brought against him by the organisation. That's what would have happened in an appeal process. I can't say it's a mistake. It's what it is.
Yeah.
And we've moved on. You know, should Dereck Chisora be out the ring for banned indefinitely? In my opinion, no. I'm his manager. I have a contract with him. It's my responsibility to ensure, at the end of the day, that, you know, he does adhere to rules. He made a lot of mistakes. He's made an apology about that. Behind the scenes, he's done a lot of things which I think are for the good of boxing.
Sure.
You know, he has to realise that he did do wrong, and I think he does accept that. However, to be banned indefinitely, to be postponing the appeal process, it took for the press conference today to get a new date for the appeal. As far as I'm concerned, you know, he needs to work, and you know, I think that there's some terrible things happened out there, but people really jumped on a bandwagon there
at that time.
Yeah, at that time, and a lot of people said, and it's funny, you look at that footage again, you know, for a punch. Yeah.
Which is something that, give him his dues, Dereck, he never even brought up. He just said, let people judge. In fact, get on with it. You know, and David Haye's not a license, was not a license holder. He surrendered that once he retired.
It's up to him to go for a license. But I just want to say something. You know, Box Nation covers a lot of Sauerland Promotions. Sauerland Promotions are based in Germany, and I think probably about 98% of their promotions are in Germany. They are licensed by the Austrian Commission, because they don't get on with the German Commission.
Which is too close to another rival company.
Yeah, which is really wrong in this day and age. But that's the facts of life. So they're licensed by the Austrian Commission. The Austrian Commission regulate all the shows that they run in Germany. A number of high-profile British boxers for a long time have fought in Germany. Recently, Matthew Macklin, amongst many others, have fought there. And those fights have been sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control. British Boxing Board of Control on numerous occasions have sent officials and representatives along to those promotions. So that process... So
they're working on a show in Germany, but actually under the rules of the Austrian government,
Correct.
Austrian governing body.
And even today, you want to say complicate matters, even today, they've announced the Klitschko-Thompson fight, which is taking place in Switzerland. But that's going to be with a German governing body's licensing situation. So it's not unusual.
So it's fluid in Europe then, it's quite common. I know it happens in Turkey.
But hang on, the Boxing Board of Control themselves, I think, I hope I'm not wrong on this, I think in Egypt, in Portugal and Dubai, I believe that the shows have run where they've officiated those contests. So it's, you know, it's what it is. We are in the EU, we're Europeans. If the board had banned him, banned Dereck Chisora, then obviously any of those governing bodies will, I'm sure, say he's banned, and therefore that's the situation. No. But he's not banned. His licence was taken, was withdrawn, and therefore, and was told that if he wants to fight elsewhere, he could fight elsewhere.
So I've got Dereck on the line here, but just before I move to Dereck, and if Dereck could just hold on a second, just to clear it up. Now, I've had to make this point to a lot of people today. The fact that this fight is not taking place under British Boxing Board of Control rules doesn't mean that A, it's illegal, or B, it's unlicensed, does it? Because those are some of the disturbing headlines, but it's an unlicensed fight.
It's poorly researched, and it's lazy journalism for people to say that. It is licensed. In fact, the Luxembourg Commission is 7 years older than the British Boxing Board of Control. It's formed in 1922, the board was 1929. And the board and them, you know, they're affiliated and they work with each other. You know, you've had a number of promoters whose fights are promoted by Sky, and let's get it right, Box Nation, Sky, you know, Sky's a massive organisation. Their boxing output, they've got a couple of promoters in Barry Hearn, Matchroom, and Frank Maloney. They both come out against it. But you look at Barry Hearn. I mean, here's a guy. He comes out with his stuff. He has it's saying this was bad for boxing. It caused you know, the split of boxing. It'll kill boxing. Here's a guy that the truth of the matter is formed a rival snooker association, formed a rival darts association. So caused schisms in both of those sports. And I remember many, many years ago that he won a purse bid for Julian Jackson to fight Harold Graham. Yep. British Boxing Board of Control found that Harold Graham was virtually blind in one eye, so he took that fight over to Spain and promoted the fight in Spain. Promoted a guy who did not pass medical regulations. Forget about trouble. This is guys who are not fit to fight, and put that fight on in Spain. So, really, why don't they get on with their business and leave us to get on with ours? And Frank Maloney, you know, I didn't want to go into the situation. He had a really terrible time in Ireland recently at a post-mortem over a very unfortunate incident where he was highly criticised. I'm not going to go into that, but the facts of the matter is, get on with your own stuff and leave us to do what we're doing.
It's that expression that I tend to use all the time, stop promoting other people's fires. Yeah. That's how it works down to. Listen, I've got Dereck Chisora on the line, hopefully. Dereck's not been feeling too well. He was due to come in, but had to pull out at the last minute after a spot of food poison. I won't go into it any more than that. Obviously, I won't get too graphic. Hopefully, Dereck's on the line. Dereck, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Well,
yeah, Dereck, first of all, Dereck, what was it like today coming face to face once again, admittedly through a metal bar, I mean a metal sort of chain link fence with David Haye? You must have been. What was it like?
Schmuck. He's a schmuck, that boy, you know. He was scared. At least he dressed up for the occasion. He actually went and bought a suit this time. Yeah. So you have to give him a props to that, give him a shout out to that, you know.
But was, you know, did you get any sense when you were standing there looking at him? Because I mean, like, you bumped into him in a restaurant, if I'm not mistaken, didn't you, as well? But this was the first time you've officially been face to face. What do you think what was going through your mind, Dereck, as you stood there?
I'm just ill, you know. Nothing else. I was just like, oh Jesus Christ, I need to get better so I can start training. You know, he's all talk, man. You know how David talks, so he's all talk right now.
And Dereck, since this fight was suggested to you, since you found out it was actually going to happen, have you put have you put a training plan in place? Are you going overseas? Are you going to have a training camp in Scotland? What's your plan?
I'm gonna take a couple of weeks in. I'm gonna do a couple of weeks in Poland, so I can watch the Euros, because I got some tickets for the matches there, and I'll be training there. They got a great gym out there. They got great people I can spar with. So I figured we go Poland, me and Don Charles. So we'll be going there for 2 weeks.
Now, Dereck, since that night in February, you've kept a fairly low profile. You did a short appearance on our show here from a show outside of Moscow, a month or so ago. But I mean, is what happened out there after your fantastic performance against Vitali, is that something that's been on your mind almost every day, that you're just itching for the chance to get in the ring and put it right?
No, you know, the fight was going to happen that way, you know, because the public kept on asking for the fight. You know, it's not like we forced them to put him in the ring and we're like, you're going in the ring. You know, the public said, we want to watch you fight. And then he decided to come to the table and say, let's fight. And me and Frank say, let's do it.
Now, have you had, as you go about your business, Dereck, I've seen pictures of you painting the shop pink, and I've seen pictures of you shopping, you know, in your mug boots. I mean, have people been coming up to you on a regular basis and saying to you they can't wait to see you beat David Haye, fight David Haye?
Bloody dogs.
Has that been happening, Dereck?
Pardon?
I mean, have people been coming up to you on a regular basis and asking, you know, and telling you they can't wait to see you fight David Haye? Is that something that's been happening on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I'm just, people have been coming up, but you know what I really love most is the young kids coming up to me, man, like want to take pictures, you know, because they see me, you know, like they know the craziness of me, but at the same time they love it. And it's not like, and the older people is all, they want pictures, want to hang out with me and stuff like that, which is great.
Now, Dereck, do you have any regrets at all about that night? Any regrets about what happened once you got out of the ring?
I got, on the whole night, it was me saying I want to shoot David, but you know what, okay. I do regret about that, because I never owned a gun, and I never will own a gun, and I would never want to take anybody's life, because, you know, he's got kids, you know, it's just madness. I would never say that. That's one thing I have to say. I deeply apologize to that.
All right, well, listen, Dereck, it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight. I hope you're starting to feel a bit better, and we'll speak to you very, very soon. Dereck Delboy Chisora there. Thanks, Dereck.
Keep taking the piss, though.
Yeah, keep taking the piss, though. He apologised, obviously, you know, for the event as a whole, and something we're still waiting for David to do. You know, his apology was a little bit wishy-washy, and we talked to him about that. And he's apologised there, obviously, for the incident, the reference to the gun. You yourself, though, you've had to battle with it a little bit with your conscience, haven't you? I mean, I remember when we sat here before and we talked about it.
Well, you know, I've been a massive supporter of the British Boxing Board of Control. You know, when the Board of Control brought in their MRI scans, they wanted to bring them in. They couldn't fund it. I funded it for 2 years for some six-figure sums, and I can recall when the Michael Watson case, when the board went into administration, and I thought the board handled that very badly. They should have paid Michael Watson. You know, Michael Watson was in a bad way, and I thought it was, you know, you want to talk about credibility, it was wrong. They should even be fighting the case, and I underwrote the money to raise for Michael Watson to settle the action for around 300 grand. And I've supported him in other areas. I really, you know, I have been quite a staunch supporter of the board. And you do look at what happened, and you look again at the fight scenes after. You just think this is not right. But I still feel that the hearing that they had was not right. Yeah. I'm very much against that. And rightly or wrongly, I'll fight for my guy. And people said to me, I've done an interview today on I've done a few interviews, and somebody said it's all about money. You know, let's get it right. Of course money's involved, and I'd be a liar to say money isn't involved. However, I don't take management commission from Dereck. I don't take any management commission. So his purse is what he gets for his fight are what they are. I'm a shareholder in in this channel. I was a shareholder in Sky and ITV as well, so that's something. But having said that, I feel that this fight that he's been out the ring now for 6 months. Made my sort of views on that a couple of minutes ago, but I feel that it's a fight that the fans want to see. If you look at the forums, any of the Twitters and all that stuff, everybody, I think 99% of the people want the fight to happen. And whatever differences they got, the place to sell it is in the ring.
Sure. And
there's an opportunity to make the fight now, and that's what we're doing. And remember, it's not just that fight on the card. You've got Povetkin fighting Ruckman for who beat Lennox Lewis for the WBA. I mean, it's a WBA heavyweight title on the same card. There'll be some other fights next week to be announced, and I think that's a super night for boxing fans. The Border Control made their position very clear. We do not want to license Chisora. David Haye isn't licensed. If he wants to be licensed by another organisation, so be it. Well, that's exactly what's happened.
I'll tell you, we'll talk a little bit more about the undercard, because a lot of people have been asking about various fights. We'll do that. Go on.
Interrupt you, just one thing. If the fight was on, if this fight was announced and it was on in Germany or Spain, there wouldn't even be an issue.
No. And I tell you what, there'll be 25,000 people or more going over. Frank, I'm going to speak now, or not, I'm not going to speak now, but earlier at the press conference today, you saw it with that metal wire down the middle, and it was on the pitch at Upton Park. We sent John Rawling along, and John Rawling was hoping to speak to both of the fighters, and he did manage to speak to both of the fighters. I was hoping to speak to both of the fighters today, and I've only managed to get Dereck, and he's poorly, so I couldn't get him on the sofa. I've been promised David Haye on this sofa next week. Meanwhile, John Rawling did catch up today with David Haye.
Well, David, a lot of talking in the build-up to this. A lot of people with their opinions about whether or not it should happen. It is going to happen. What's your take on it?
Oh, whether people want it or not, as you said, it's going to happen. So if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. If you do, fantastic. You're going to get a great fight. Boxing's about two guys fighting each other. Obviously with rules. We've done it without rules, and ideally that wouldn't have happened, but if that wouldn't have happened, maybe this fight wouldn't have happened with me and him. The hysteria surrounding it, the amount of media worldwide interest in this fight, the amount of people that pull me up on the streets daily, fight Dereck Chisora, shut him up, the guy's such an idiot, you have to do it. I'm like, okay then, let's get it on. So I've got an opportunity now. Summertime, I'm already in decent shape. All I've got to do is taper down and go out there and teach this boy a lesson. I already have taught him a lesson. In Germany, when he got in my face, he got put on his back real quick. He wants to do it in a bigger forum. Okay.
I have to ask though about that. How much do you regret what happened in Munich?
I don't regret it at all. I think anybody should hold their ground. If anyone comes up to them who threatens them, says they're going to break their jaw when they see him, says they're going to beat them up, says they're going to give them 2 slaps, someone walks into your face, you've got the right to defend yourself, your property, your family. It's like if you get a bully who tries to threaten you to you're going to do something, it gets in your personal space. I believe every man, woman and child is in their right to defend themselves, and that's exactly what I was doing.
So what about the fight itself when it comes to happen? Dereck fancies it, obviously, as he must.
He fancied his last three title fights, which he lost. Just because he fancies something, doesn't mean he gets it. I've seen him fight before. He's a solid club fighter. The only reason this fight's happening is because he's so crazy. The guy does stupid things. He says silly things. He gets arrested for silly things. And the hype sold. And I'm going to have to do it for real. He's going to realise that I'm not one of these big, tall, giant guys who's just trying to get away from him. We're the same size, and he's never would have been hit as hard as he's going to get hit against me before.
He's going to be right in your face, isn't he? He'll bring the fight to you. He models himself on Joe Frazier. That's what he's going to try and do.
We're planning for that. I'm praying for that. If you look through my record at guys who have tried to press me ever since the Carl Thompson fight, the whole blueprint to beat me is get into the second half of the fight because I'm going to fade and they're going to take over. Well, that's never happened. The only guy to beat me since then was Vladimir Klitschko, who outboxed me. And he was only able to do that because he was so big. With good athletic, got long arms. He had like 4 inches in height on me. This guy's the same size. He's not a boxer. He's a pressure fighter. So he's the polar opposite to the guy that beat me in my last fight. So for me, this is going to be fun.
David, people are going to be talking about the possibility still in the future of a fight against one of the Klitschkos, probably Vitali, and Bunce, his manager's already said, you know, get this fight on against Dereck Chisora, and that can still happen. Is that your ambition?
Ideally, I've always said that was the only fight I wanted. That fight doesn't look like it's happening for the next foreseeable future. So, with not being there, you know, I'm always in shape. I'm always in the gym training. So, got the opportunity, you know, in 10 weeks to smash up Dereck Chisora. You know, I think it's a no-brainer for me. It's a simple answer. Do you fancy having a fight? Ideally, it'd obviously be Vitali or Vladimir. That's not going to happen. So, probably the next person on the list, I'd say, would be Chisora. So here we go.
And finally, 35,000 probably going to be here watching it. I mean, it's going to be a huge event, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you confident this time you can really deliver and do yourself justice?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, you've got to look at the calibre, the difference in calibre of opposition. You know, I was fighting Vladimir Klitschko, so, you know, people regard him as the best fighter on the planet. You know, I went into that fight, did best I could on the night. It wasn't enough, but, you know, his attributes and Dereck Chisora's attributes are so a polar opposite, and the things that I struggled with Vladimir, I will not struggle with Dereck, and I haven't looked forward to a fight like this for a long time because of the stuff he's been saying, not only to the public, but, you know, to people out there in the world, people I know. You know, it's time to shut this guy up. The guy's a bully. You know, the guy is used to saying whatever he wants to say because he's a big guy. You know, he goes up to an average guy in the street. He can intimidate people. He slapped Vitali in the face. There was no response. He spat in Vladimir's face. No response. He's used to no one reacting and responding to his bully tactics, but he can't do that with me. You know, and I think he'll realise that on the night. He might try and rush in, but he's going to rush into some big punches. And I guarantee everybody claims before they fight me that they're going to walk through me, they're going to get into it. Once people start tasting the power, they soon revert away from just letting their hands go. And I'm hoping that he doesn't. I hope he just keeps punching, because the more he punches, the more punishment I'll inflict.
Oh, you got to love that. David Haye says, I won't react to his bully boy tactics. 4 minutes earlier in the interview, he says, when a bully comes over to you, you're entitled to defend yourself, so I whacked him twice. You got to love it. There's nothing like a contradiction, all tied up inside a 4-minute interview. Absolutely brilliant. Frank, which one of them was it easier to get to the table, or did they both pulling you to the table?
Dereck wanted to fight. Dereck wants to fight, and he wanted to fight him. And Dereck doesn't want 10-round fights. He wants fights that challenge him, and this is obviously a natural grudge fight for, obviously. Remember, we were trying to make this fight before all that rubbish happened. Yeah. You know, in fact, Bunce said, why don't we make the fight and the winners fight each other
on the table
before all the fracas afterwards.
And you'd agreed to it. I mean, I know it all happened in 2 minutes, but you'd agreed to it.
For me, it's always going to be a good fight to make. You know, David, I spoke to Adam. I didn't speak to David. I spoke to Adam Booth, and we talked about it, and we got to a stage where we made the fight.
On the night, July 14th, we're going to have 40 odd thousand people inside Upton Park. The ring will be in the middle of the pitch, not like it was for Kevin Mitchell, where it was down in front of the Bobby Moore stand. What's the situation vis-a-vis the Border Control and the Luxembourg Boxing Federation? What's the situation with British fighters on there and seconds and whips and that type of stuff? Will they have to get Luxembourg licences temporary? Well, it's a Luxembourg jurisdiction fight. It's under their auspices. I'm a British licence holder. I'm going to be involved in Dereck's preparations and involved all the way through for the fight. I'm sure his trainer's going to do the same. I think there's going to be other British boxers fighting on the card. I don't see why the board should not allow that fight to go on. At the end of the day, they have no jurisdiction over either of those two boxers. There's a WBA fight on there. There'll be a WBO fight on there. So I don't see what the problem can be. And, you know, I don't want to get into antagonism with the Boxing Border Control. It is what it is. And I don't see it being treated as any different than any other promotion that takes place under a legitimate commission, European Commission. Why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't it be indeed? Anyway, July 14th will be David Haye against Dereck Delboy Chisora. I'm not sure, is the Luxembourg Heavyweight Championship on the line? I'm sure it's vacant.
Well, there will be I believe there'll be a title on the line, which we'll announce sometime this week. There'll be a title, and it's going to be a very interesting title.
It'd be 12 rounds if there's no title. Assuming there's no title.
Well, we've got to work that out where we are. But if there's a title involved, it's a 12-round fight. But, you know, I've got to tell you something. You know, David talked about what Dereck's done. You know, Dereck had a really fabulous performance against Vitaly Klitschko.
And Helenius.
Everybody. He beat Helenius. Yeah. I don't care what anyone
says. So 24 good rounds.
Against 2 quality fighters. Yeah. And if I look at David's performance against Klitschko, brother, and look at Dereck's performance, I mean, it's like chalk and cheese. You know, Dereck needed those rounds under his belt. Remember, he had a big period of inactivity because when he signed for the Vladimir Klitschko fight that didn't take place,
then
he sat
next
around.
Vladimir Klitschko
right,
fight,
so he sat around with things not happening. He has got those rounds under his belt, and I've got to tell you something. For me, him fighting Vitaly Klitschko has brought him on a bundle. I mean, he is going to be. That's going to be a good fight. And one thing, what you know. David Haye does punch, there's no doubt about it. He's a big puncher, and you've seen that in fights. But Dereck Chisora has got a good chin. And I'll tell you something, who would you have your money on out of Monty Barrett and Dereck Chisora? You know, Monty Barrett, don't know what says, he wobbled David. I'd fancy Dereck Chisora every day to beat the Beast from the East.
The Beast from the East, value. I'll tell you what, it is going to be a special night. Listen, thanks for coming in, Frank. Pity you couldn't bring Dereck, the toilet boy, in. Kazi Chisora,
you know, he's got. As I say, he's on a run tonight.
Boom, boom. Oh, listen, that's the opening of the show. There's plenty more to come. Let's go to an advert.